right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Real Freedom Podcast, where we talk about building wealth, gaining time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. And one of the things that I love is, for many people, they view folks in the medical profession as that's the be all end all. If I could be a doctor, if I could be in the medical field, I'll have enough money, I'll have everything that I want. And what we find is that's not always the case. You don't have the time freedom. You don't always have the chance to do what you want, call your shots. And so on this podcast, we've had a few people that have come from the medical field and have got into real estate investing. So that's the case with today's guest. We've got Roderick Capelo. He's a pediatric orthopedic surgeon out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and now a seasoned real estate investor. So you co-founded Pediatric Sports and Spine Associates back in 2006. And now today, kind of jumping ahead, you have about 2,400 multifamily units in 5 states. You founded Fortis Equity Group, co-author of 2 best-selling books, Purpose, Passion, and Profits, as well as Persistence, Pivots, and Game Changers, Turning Challenges into Opportunities. And so we're here to talk about multifamily apartments. We're here to talk about building wealth, using the medical field as an opportunity to springboard your real estate career. And so, Roderick, we're so excited to have you on the show.
Hey, first of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's fantastic. And, you hit the nail on the head when you said, you thought the medical profession is the end all be all. I thought the same thing. My dad told me, my dad was the quintessential poor dad, go to school, get good grades, don't have any debt, and you'll be financially sound. And, that might've been true when he told me 35 years ago, 40 years ago, but the game's changed, and really insurance companies are in control, federal regulations are in control. And so, I just decided to make, to create a second stream of income in addition to medicine, and circumstances what they were took me towards real estate.
Do you want to just kind of share a little bit about your medical background and how that came to be? And even as an entrepreneur, starting a company, and just because you have a medical background doesn't mean you're great at running businesses. There's lots of skills involved in that. So I'd love to just hear that before we springboard into the real estate piece.
Yeah. So pediatric orthopedic surgery. So that's like bones and joints on kids, sports injuries in adolescents, scoliosis and stuff like that. And did a bunch of stuff you're going to be born with it y'all never heard of. And, I was really, it's a calling. I love doing what I do. I really enjoy what I do. But I own my own practice. And if I don't see 30 patients a day, I don't make money. So imagine the pressure of having to run a certain amount of patients through the day when you want to give them great customer service, and you feel that pressure of volume. And whether or not you like medicine is irrelevant. If you're running your business, you got to get that going. So I guess at the time I didn't know it when I decided to start my own medical practice with my former partner, but I am an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur that happens to practice medicine, which, by the way, is a very challenging way to make money because you can't leverage that. I'm an entrepreneur that has created a real estate company. And, I didn't know what that meant at the time, but started my medical practice, and things were doing well for a while, making good money, working really hard. And then, your life changes after a while. I had kids, and my perspective changed. It wasn't about being in the hospital and doing all these surgeries, late at night and getting paid well for it. It was about being home with my little babies and being able to have the energy to spend with them. And so, just like anything, your perspective changes over time. And after a while, I was sort of getting dissatisfied with medicine, getting dissatisfied with the fact that I had the pressure of having to see so many patients, having to do so much work just to keep the doors open. To be honest with you, everybody thinks doctors are rich. For those listeners, most of your doctor friends are not rich. They might have 2 really nice cars and a really big house, but it's all leveraged. They can't stop what they're doing, and they can't take 6 months off of work and keep their same lifestyle. So to me, that's not the definition of rich. So, things are going great. And this is going to be a long story or a short story. I learned the hard way that we're not in control of the medical situation. A hospital CEO made a decision that cut my compensation by about 50% in the same month that I'm supposed to close on my dream home. My mortgage is about to double. And so I did what every good doctor would do. I joined network marketing, and to make a secondary stream of income. I say that facetiously. But the blessing was I learned some folks in network marketing that exposed me to this concept of personal development, making yourself better to get the things that you might want in life, helping those around you get where they want to go, and so you get where you want to go. And that really changed my perception, changed my perspective, caused my former business owner, my business partner and I to go our separate ways because our philosophies of how to run a business diverged. I believe in pouring into my employees, making them know how much I care about them, telling them how awesome they are. And so they don't have to learn to be happy. They're just happy at work because they like the environment and the culture. And so as my perspective and ideas of how to do business changed, I had that very challenging financial situation with the hospital CEO, and it was just the time was right. I met some folks, and my I won't give it to the end of the story, but my circumstances led towards real estate. I put one foot in front of the other, and here I am.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, that is the story that you hear, at least the folks that I've interviewed on the podcast that have had that background in medicine is yeah, you don't get the lifestyle freedom. You don't get the chance to make choices because, like you said, you have to do surgeries, you have to show up. It's long hours, it's grueling. And then too, when you fast forward that 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you then don't have the passive income to be able to show for it like you would in real estate. And so it's you continue to do it, and once you turn off that faucet, the faucet's off. And so that's at least the story that I've heard from folks in the medical background that do then get into real estate is, look, with real estate, I'm building something that's growing, and being able to use the income that I'm earning at the same time to help start to feed that. And then too, there's lots of groups of medical professionals helping each other invest in real estate as well, because you've got the shared experience, and now you're able to do something and build something together.
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing is we get pitched everything, right? Everybody knows that doctors have some expendable income. So if you're a financial planner or you want them to invest, we get pitched all kinds of stuff. And so when I got involved in real estate and started having some success as a passive investor, I realized, you know what? I understand this now. I didn't know what cash on cash meant from a preferred return when I got started. But when I realized I could speak real estate and I could speak doctor, and I was investing with people that were not my friends. They were just people that I knew, people that I invested with many times and went to vacations with them and hung out with them. I could bridge that gap between what do I do with my money? I don't trust this person over here, but this is a guy over here is a doctor like me, and he knows these people, and he's investing right alongside me. Not only did I feel it was an opportunity for me to bring stuff to my fellow colleagues, but also I felt like more of a calling. I felt like I was doing them a disservice if I didn't share it, because I was so happy with the way things were going for me that I couldn't just hold it in. I had to say, look, guys, here's what I'm doing, and if you like it, great. And if they don't want to invest, that's fine.
Well, and too, people want to work with people they know, like, and trust. And yeah, if you guys have that shared experience together, you're in the same profession, at least there's that common ground, and they know where they could find you if they needed to find you, and, say, hey, shake the cages a little bit and say, what are you doing? So talk about those early days, how that first couple of investments worked. How did you find the people? How did it come together? And
so, like I mentioned, I got involved in because of a financial crisis with what I mentioned. I got involved with network marketing, and it was a great company. And so they introduced me to the concept of personal development. Started reading books by Jim Rohn and all kinds of different people. And one of my friends said, "Hey, would you like to go to a business mastermind at the home of Jim Rohn's business partner?" And I said, what's a mastermind? Doctors don't mastermind. We already know everything. What would you go somewhere to learn, right? And so I went, and it was a group of people, a lot of real estate investors, some network marketers, some attorneys, a different, a couple of doctors. And it was a super positive environment of people trying to help each other. And honestly, I thought they were all being fake. I thought it was completely fake. So I went back the next month, and it was the same people acting the same way. And after a while, I realized there's actually people that are happy, that have a great outlook on life, that look at the positive side of things, and that want to help people around them. And that's not typically the way you describe a physician, right? Just in general as a stereotype. And so there was a couple of successful real estate investors, and after getting to know them for a year and a half, and looking at the pro forma and trying to ask, try to not sound dumb, I asked a couple of good questions. I was ready to go, and I got cold feet, and I didn't do it. And then the next one came along, and next opportunity, and I finally invested. I said, okay, cool. And I got involved, and then another one came along, and I got involved, and I got passively invested in 5 or 6 different syndications, mostly multifamily, and they were just going really well. And so I met those folks through this mastermind group, and just got to know them really well as people first. And so my comfort level was good for the person I was investing in. I didn't know anything about how to, study market fundamentals and, all the occupancy rate. Those were pretty new terms to me at the time. fact, funny story. I go back and look at the marketing sheet that they gave me for my very first investment. And I look at that, and I go, now I think there's not even enough information here for me to invest. But at the time, I didn't know what I was doing, so it was fine with me, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's where, I've heard from people that in when you're talking about real estate as an investment, there's kind of three phases to what they want to know. The first one is, number one, are you not going to take my money and run away? Like some sort of Ponzi scheme, something like that. So that's like the lowest level of investment is you're not going to take my money and run away. Kind of level two is I'm going to give you my money, and at the least I'm probably going to get it back, where it's a net neutral, as zero of you're not going to run away with my money. I'm not going to get rich, but at the same time, you're not going to lose me money. And then the third level is kind of, yes, I trust you that you're going to make me money. And that comes with time, performance, a good reputation, to know like, okay, I'm going to give you my money. You're going to grow it. I trust you to grow it. And then we'll go continue to grow it after that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you're still kind of figuring out at least you're not going to run away with my money. Right.
It's funny that you say that, because one of my very first investors was the guy I met at dad on our soccer team probably 4 years ago. And we were just chatting real estate, and I had just lost a bunch of money in a single family. My first foray into real estate. I didn't even cover that. I lost $40,000 on a single family investment because I partnered with the wrong guy and got a bad taste in my mouth and said, I don't want to do that. And so that's when syndication came my way. But I had an opportunity to invest, and one of the soccer dads said, hey, that sounds good, but the minimum was more than he wanted to invest. So we put our funds together to meet the minimum. Anyway, long story short, 3 years later when it sold, and I gave him his money back almost plus double his return, it was like an annualized ROI was like 28%. And he said, his response was, yes, it's not a Ponzi scheme. I said, that's what you were worried about? He said, well, you never really know until you get your money back and then some, right? So it's funny that you say that. A lot of people think that I think initially, they just won't tell you that.
So talk through then the learning curve for you. Obviously now it started with, hey, I got this sheet. I didn't really have enough information in hindsight to make a good decision. Walk through that process of educating yourself on real estate, finding people that are going to teach you what you need to know, to where now you're, raising a lot of money. You have a bunch of units yourself.
Yeah. So certainly it's a process. And, going back to my history as a doctor, what do? You study for a long time, you go to school for a long time. So innately my response was, I got to learn this. So I started going to conferences that were held by the people that I met in that mastermind group. And I went to, probably 4 or 5 conferences a year for a year and a half before I did my first investment. So yes, educating. I didn't know cash on cash from preferred return. I didn't know economic vacancy from, whatever. And so you just start to learn a little bit at a time. So that's one thing, is educate yourself to have a base amount of knowledge. The other thing is, it's really in partners. I think the life and business and everything is just about who you pick as a partner. And are they going to complement your skill set? Are they going to be honest and have integrity? And so I got really fortunate that I met these folks first. And so I felt very comfortable with them as people before I invested with them. And so things went well because, as it turns out, looking in retrospect, I partnered with the right people. The very first single family investment, I partnered with the wrong guy and lost $40,000. And so one of my friends says, there's no lesson like a bought lesson. When you pay for the lesson, you're going to remember that. So I remember that lesson. But it's partnering with the right people that have honesty and integrity, transparency. And so that one of the blessings of that was, as I started my own real estate company, it was very easy to know how to emulate them, because that's the way it treated me when I had questions. It was all above board. And so just kind of passed those lessons I learned as I dealt with my investors.
So now, you have Fortis Equity Group. Talk through what your role is, what you guys are doing, and how you're selecting investments, raising money. Talk through that process.
Yeah. So along the lines of, I said, I educated myself. I also joined a couple of coaching programs, and not where you have to pay to invest, but there's people that they're coaching you. And so it's an environment of lots of folks doing real estate from various. Some people are brand new, some people have been doing it for a while, and but it's an environment of abundance, not scarcity. So anybody that knows what they're doing was happy to pass that along. And so there's a lot of folks sourcing deals. There's folks doing different aspects of it. And so as I invested passively and then enjoyed these coaching programs, and started meeting different people, and kind of realizing, hey, that person thinks like me, this person thinks like me. Just getting in small groups and starting syndication groups and general partnerships. I don't do most of the deals sourcing. Usually I get in, there's a whole group of people that have deals, and when they find a deal they like, they'll approach me and say, hey, listen, this is a deal we're looking at. And I'll do a lot of the investor relations. I'll do some of the due diligence, some of the capital raising, and some of the, at-risk capital and things like that. Just however I can contribute and add value to the partnership.
And what's kind of your criteria? What generally are you looking for? Locations, sizes, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's usually class B, C, typically value add 100 to 400, 500 units in the Southwest United States. Typically, we're in Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and so business-friendly states in the Sun Belt area, 100 to 400 units. Typically, like I said, typically value add.
Okay, and so, did you kind of scale up to that, or were your initial syndications, you just had a smaller piece of the pie, or were you kind of always 100 units plus in your syndications?
So usually it's a part of a group. Like I said, we're in these coaching programs. It's a group of us get together. So the ones I was passively invested, in fact, I don't think any of them are under 100 units, that passive or part of the general partnership team. So it's just sort of the criteria that we look for in our training, and so we all have common goals in that regard. Folks will come to me with, hey, there's a development deal here or this deal over here. And, it's been hard to be disciplined and stay away from the bright, shiny and really stick to my fundamentals at this point. I might learn more about those and branch out at some point, but I really wanted to dive really deep with multifamily so that I felt really comfortable with that. And so the size of the units and all that's really just what we all as collectively as a group are looking for. Again, people look at other things and bring it to our group. I want to stick to this multifamily for now.
Do you dive deep into kind of the property management side as far as really scrutinizing, okay, we think we can take this value add, either renovate the units and update it? Is it, hey, property management's really the issue right here, we're going to need to clean house and find somebody new? Because that key part is managing that asset moving forward to be able to get the returns, right, that you're projecting. And so kind of walk through that side of the piece of the value add and the property management side, and how you're going to see that return grow.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And so I mentioned earlier, who do you partner with, right? It's always who do you partner with, who you're working with. They can make or break a situation. And so, yes, and the answer to your question is all of those things, right? And so sometimes, and the way I think of it is not buying real estate. I think about you're buying a business. You're buying a business that's underperforming. Whoever's running the business is doing a poor job. They don't have enough tenants, or their market rents are too low, or the rents are lower than market average, or it's just being poorly run. And so any opportunity to clean up the property, to make it look nice, to get rid of the folks that aren't paying their rent, to increase the rents if they need to be, as we made the property nicer, and just to clean up the operation of the business, make it run more efficiently. As you know, that increases the net operating income, which increases the value of the property. So it's really just, I think of it more in terms of looking for a poorly run business, and you go in there and you make the business run more efficiently, and then someone comes and buys the business from you, or you just keep running the business and enjoy the profits. But what you found initially was someone had a business and they really weren't running it properly. So that was your opportunity to come in and very quickly turn things around, because there were some problems you could address from the very beginning. Again, I mentioned some of them: poor tenants, the mom and pop shop where they haven't increased the rents in 15 years, and the place is dilapidated. They come in and make it look really nice, provide some really nice amenities, get it to the same rents as the average market in the area there. And everybody wins, right? Investors make money. The tenants are super happy with the place they live because it looks way better than it did before. And we're happy that we were able to help both groups.
And is the strategy typically some sort of cash out refi, or sell after you've raised the value and then go move on to something else?
Again, the answer is yes. What I love about real estate is there's a bunch of options. You just got to keep your mind open. Certainly, really depends on just the overall situation. We've done cash out refis in the past and return our investors a large chunk, sometimes almost 100%, and then just keep cash flowing for a while until someone makes us an offer we can't refuse. Or sometimes we've gotten in situations where there was maybe a few things that we didn't anticipate, and not everything is as beautiful as it seems from the beginning, right? Not every first date is a second and third date that's just as good. So there's been a couple of situations where things were going great, but it just made more sense to sell it once we were able to increase the value of the property. So it's whatever makes more sense to our investors and to the group as a whole. That's what we do. And the interesting thing about what's going on now, not to muddy the waters a little bit, but who knows what the end game is going to be over the next 18 to 24 months, because the environment's changing so much right now.
And on a project like that,
Mhm.
just to give folks a little bit of perspective, how many
Mhm.
investors are a part of that group? So if you're taking down 300 units, roughly how many investors are going to be a part of that deal?
Oh, it can vary greatly, because some folks will bring, 1031s and larger chunks of money and things like that, but it could be, you know, 20 to 80, 100, maybe not 80, maybe a lot, but, 20 to 60, 80, somewhere in there typically. And it's a network, I'm sorry, it's a network of all of our gender partnership group, but we all bring it to our network and people we know and invite them to invest alongside us. And we all, of course, invest passively alongside our investors. It wouldn't make any sense for me to say, hey, Mike, this is a great deal here. You say, Rod, what about you? Are you investing? No, but I think it's a great deal for you. But that wouldn't make any sense. So we all invest alongside passively, of course.
Well, and I think what you're talking about speaks to the relationship, the key of the relationship, because if you're buying properties of different sizes, different locations, different strategies, right? There's so many moving pieces. And even we talked about exit strategies, right? There's multiple things you can do. People need to know that they're working with people that they trust. Because if I'm one of those 20 to 80 people, okay, this strategy we might be executing here, but now we're going to go over to this state to a different complex and do something different. I have to know that you're going to take care of me and that we're going to work through that, and to line up 80 people to be kind of on a similar page to where we're all bought into this project is important. And so that's where I think it comes back to the value of the relationship, the trust capital that you've already built with these people to say, yes, take my money, we're going to do this and we're going to grow it together.
Absolutely. And the transparency and communication, right? You have to be able to communicate when things go really well, and maybe when things don't go so well, or here's where we are, just got to be able to communicate all the time so people know exactly what page you're on. But to your point, one of the times I felt most validated is a good friend of mine who was an anesthesiologist I use on a regular basis, and just chit-chatting in the operating room. He said many times, I just don't really feel comfortable about talking about money and stuff like that. And I said, well, no, you make a lot of it. You probably better be comfortable about talking about it. And I've just been talking to him about what I'm doing over time and putting no pressure on him. And I invited him to jump on a webinar where I was presenting a property, and he did. And I followed up with him, and he tried to ask a few questions, not to seem like a pushover. And he basically said, Rod, I don't really know anything about this, but if you're putting your money in it and I trust you, I'm going to invest because I trust who you are. And I thought, to me, that was like that, that's it validated what I'm doing. Of course, it also motivated me to work even harder to make sure that he gets a good result. But you're right. It's about trust. It's about who you know. It's about who you're working with, for sure.
Well, and too, because the end game here, what's going to make life a lot easier for you is I give you my money, you help me make money on this property. Now we're going to go do it again and again and again. And so it's, I'll give you $2, turn it into 4, turn it into 8, turn it into 16, and we go from there. So that's where that relationship is really important. If I give you money one time and you mess around with it and screw up, well, I'm not going to be very likely to give it to you again. So you have to earn that relationship every time, every deal, to be able to continue to grow that with them. And if you do that, you don't have to find as many new people because you've got that great pool of current investors built up.
Absolutely. It's interesting you say that, because one of my mental blocks, I guess, if you will, early on was, this is me putting my money into these projects, but it was going to people and talking to them about it, not because I didn't believe in it, because it terrified me to take somebody's $100,000. I mean, you take some $100,000 from somebody, that's nerve-wracking. It makes me more nervous than doing surgery, to be honest with you. And so, but that's what, because I feel an obligation to do a good job. It's one thing if it's my money, but if it's someone else's, it's even more of an obligation to do a good job. And so, and like you said, if you do a good job, then people say, okay, great, I like that one. Where's the next one? And so hopefully that'll happen this year. We're looking to sell. It looks like we're going to be selling soon, and we're always looking for good deals. So.
Well, and if you kind of, to put it back into the medical analogy, like if I'm trusting you to, with my body, with the ailment that I have, with the procedure that you're going to do, if it gets screwed up and, I can't walk right, or I got to come back and we got to do it again, that's a big problem. And it's the same thing here too, like you said. And yeah, these are people's dreams, goals, future plans, second homes for grandkids down the road. And if you're building generational wealth, that can really move on. So there's a level of weight that we have to have with that money, knowing that this is a big deal for people, that I'm really giving you my life savings in a lot of cases to help make me money on this asset.
Absolutely. And one of the things that helps me do that is their other option is usually Wall Street, which we'll go down that road. But that's I see this what we're doing as a way better option for many reasons that are not probably part of this discussion today. But when you have that confidence of knowing I'm doing the right thing, again, my money's right alongside theirs. My mom and dad at 70-something years old, their money's right alongside as well. So that speaks volumes as to the confidence that I have in the projects and the teams that I'm a part of. And really, some basic principles of what I learned in the mastermind group is, never be the smartest person in the room. That's easy. I travel with a lot of smart people. When I'm with our teams, our sponsorship teams, there's a lot of folks that are very talented and very smart, and we leverage each other's strengths, right? So yeah, it's been a blessing overall for sure.
And I was also going to say too, kind of going back to the medical analogy, really trusting the training and the work that you've put in. When you're doing surgery on somebody or you're doing a complicated procedure, you got to trust all that work, all that knowledge that you gained, all the practice that you've had going into that. Here, when somebody says, take my money, you got to trust the work, the knowledge that you've put into it, that this is a good asset too.
Absolutely. Using that knowledge even further, there's been times in surgery where not everything goes as planned. And so you got to realize, okay, I had plan A, that didn't work so well, but I also had plan B, C, and D in my back pocket. So let's see which one of those will work. Same thing with real estate. You can say, this is our plan for the property. Well, something changed. It didn't. That's no longer going to be the best option. So being able to have other options available based on your training, there's a lot of good analogies there for sure. No question about it.
Yeah.
One thing is this different though is this is leverageable and medical income is not. I always tell people I'm like a plumber. If a plumber doesn't fix my plumbing, he doesn't get paid. If I don't do surgery or see patients, I don't get paid. It might be a larger number per hour, but at the end of the day, I can't leverage it. I can't go do what I do as a doctor on the beach or in the mountains, but I can do real estate on the beach or in the mountains any day.
And yeah, as you continue to build, that cash flow is going to continue to grow too. So absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can build a business, you can have your own practice. There's ways to leverage others, but yeah, real estate's just different. So what's kind of the next steps for you? What's the future hold in terms of your practice, your medical business that you have, as well as your real estate?
So hopefully closer to 5. Here's the thing. When I joined that mastermind group and I joined network marketing, I was stressed out, burned out, kind of angry. Not the guy you see before you today. My perspective has changed. Now I look at the bright side of things as much as possible because now that I have an escape plan, if you will, life looks a lot less daunting than when you're just nose to the grindstone with no escape plan or hoping your financial planner is telling you the right stuff. So what I realize is I really love what I do. I love practicing orthopedic surgery on children. What I don't love is the grind of having to run the business and the volume. So my ultimate goal from the practice perspective will just be to work 2 days a week pro bono. Just have somebody come in, purchase the practice from me or run it or work with my PAs and nurse practitioners and really just go and see as few patients as I want. If I want to stay and chat and take my time per patient instead of 30 a day, maybe just schedule me 10 a day and I'll take a salary. I do it for free. I don't charge the patient because I have something else paying my family's overhead, paying for my dreams and my insurance and my travel and all the my family stuff. And so that's my goal, is to be able to back away from this trap that medicine is, where you have to just work so hard and do it for free, but on my terms, on the days that I want. If I don't want to schedule patients that day, I just don't. I don't have that freedom right now. As far as real estate goes, to get there, I've got to get the message out and just help more people. The only way I can create income to do my dreams is help other people create passive income for their dreams. And so it's really much of the same. It's looking for more deals, it's partnering with more people. Although my ultimate goal is to have various asset classes. So have my multifamily partners, have my self-storage partners, have my residential assisted living partners. One of the things that we do when we help people create passive cash flow is we create a tax problem. So I'm also working in the oil and gas industry for tax mitigation investments that really help you reduce your tax load, which is also great for high net worth folks like doctors, lawyers, engineers, things like that. So what's on the future is continuing to get better at this and streamline these processes, but also sort of branch out into other asset classes so that ultimately we're more fluid. Like there might be a time when this asset class is way better than this one. That's great. We have options. There's not just one thing that we're doing. So, but we dove in deep with multifamily initially, and then tax mitigation through the oil and gas industry is our next thing we're looking into in 2023.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. And it's just fun to hear, like you said, the change of your life, how you were, angry, a little bit more angry, a little bit more frustrated, didn't really know kind of how to get out. And now it's like, yeah, you see the light at the end of the tunnel because of professional development. You've become a different person. And so that's what real estate can do. And also just working on yourself, right?
Yes,
The
yes.
personal development, I believe that is really important as well. That's exciting to hear.
Absolutely, yeah. It's because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's with your family, your spouse, your friends, your job, your real estate. The way I tell my kids, there's a thing that happens to you, and there's a story that you tell yourself around the thing that happens to you, and that's really what you focus on. So if you want to have a different response, tell yourself a different story. Tell yourself a positive story. This is what happened, and that's okay. It's going to be good, and here's why. Not, oh shucks, what do I do now? What was me? Like that's not going to help anybody at all.
What advice would you give to somebody that's looking at getting into real estate? Somebody in the medical profession right now that's like, gosh, I'm just feeling the grind right now.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily know people in real estate. I don't really know where to get started, but I know I want to do something. What would you recommend?
I think what I'd recommend is to some degree educate yourself a little bit. Now I'm asking them to go to 6 or 8 or 10 conferences, real estate conferences a year, like I do, but at least get some idea of what is out there real estate wise. You can go to different investor conferences or a bunch of different ones, and then it's create relationships. Right at those conferences, you might meet people doing deals, or ask a bunch of questions. Ask your friends and colleagues, hey, do you know anybody that's investing in real estate, and get increase your network, right? They say your network is your net worth. Well, if you increase your network and then create those relationships, and really you have to have a base knowledge to know that I mean, if you can't at least read the performer, you probably shouldn't be investing. You don't have to be an expert, but have some base knowledge. But really, it all boils down to people and partnerships. And so find people for, like I said, various different ways that are doing that. Become friendly with them, get to know them, see if that's the kind of person you want to partner with. But at the end of the day, again, it involves education, which usually revolves around either a podcast or conferences, or these days there's all kinds of online conferences, and you can find there's a bunch of resources out there. I think if people just look.
And I think that the challenge for some people probably too is not really understanding, is this a good resource? Is this a bad resource? Because there's a lot of junk out there too. And so for somebody new, I would say sometimes people are hesitant to take action because they're fearful of taking the wrong action.
Right.
And so that's where education comes in. The more you educate yourself, the more you'll be able to help determine who's a great resource, who's maybe not such a great resource. And that's the hard step. So people tend to just get into not doing anything because they fear that they might do the wrong thing.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. My first investment was in a single family home, and I lost $40,000. Right, so you can imagine when I, fast forward about a year and a half, when I was looking at these performers, thinking, okay, I've got the money, and this makes sense. I got cold feet twice. I said, no, I can't do it. It wasn't until the third. I said, what am I doing all this for? I got to invest, and so I did, and it went great, and just made me wish I hadn't waited. If I invested in the deal two deals before, but it's at the end of the day, it's about education. But you're right, you don't really know if you partner with the right person until you get down the road a little bit, right? Hindsight's always 20/20. And so I'm not sure how you avoid that, rather than just try to do due diligence, try to ask some questions. And for me personally, I can get the sense really quickly, and if I want to do business with you or not. I mean, I could have a 10-minute conversation with someone and think to myself, my mind is open to doing business with them, or I don't see myself doing business with that person. That's me now. There's certain criteria I look for, people, how their mentality, their positivity, their outlook, things like that. Not everybody is able to do that. I couldn't do that 5 years ago. That's just me now, and the way I kind of look at life and look at things.
And I think one thing too to add on top of that is embrace the suck. Like, you're not going to necessarily know what a home run deal looks like your first time out. And so you have to get through the first, the second, the third, the 10th to the 20th to really know, like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Too many people think that the first one's got to be perfect, and you have to kind of go through that learning curve, and treating it like an educational expense. You had a $40,000 educational expense, your first property, and now you're making more on your future deals because you went through that.
Absolutely. I don't recommend people make a $40,000 educational expense like I did, but you're right. I mean, like my friend says, there's no lesson like a bought lesson. You certainly remember that for sure. And you do have to kind of go, through. Sometimes it's getting in a smaller deal at first, or maybe it's a deal with someone you want from. Like, sometimes it's a friend of a friend, so they bring the trust factor there. But you have to take action. At the end of the day, fortune favors those to take action. And so that's one of the things I've learned is that as a surgeon, I can analyze all day. I can complicate anything, to be honest with you, but the magic doesn't happen until you take action.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. For people that want to know more about you and learn more about what you're up to, how can they do that?
They can reach me at freedom@fortisequitygroup.com. That's freedom@fortisequitygroup, FORTIS, equitygroup.com. Just send me an email, or you can go to fortisequitygroup.com website and schedule a call. I'd love to connect with folks and just let them know what we're doing and see if it fits into their overall game plan. If it does, I'd love to help them. And if not, there's lots of options out there. But thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited that you're able to share your wisdom with everybody and to see how real estate has had such an impact on your life, and excited that you're wanting to help others do the same. So thank you so much for coming on.